Hi Sagittarius, welcome to your October 2017 General Tarot reading. It's Rena here, shuffling the cards. Oh, I like that one. Okay. Oh, wow. Picking an additional card because the Five of Cups is not a card that is, it lends itself to final, the final position. So, I'm also picking a card from the Earth Magic deck. And put that down here. Okay. Let me start with the heart of the matter. The Ace of Swords is seeing things how they really are, and that allows you to move forward in your life. Such a big thing, with Sagittarius. I'm a Sun in Sagittarius, Mercury in Sagittarius. Is that we've had this long-term transit, and it's going to continue, of Neptune and Pisces. And Pisces is another mutable sign, and it forms a square with Sagittarius. And so for the Sagittarius person, Pisces is the fourth house of home and family. So sometimes issues surrounding family matters may have been kind of confused, and that may have led to some pain in your life. There may have been half-truths, and maybe even like a lot of hostility, anger. But the anger was, and this could have been on your part, but the anger was based upon not knowing the full picture. Okay, and this is kind of what this card represents as the challenge position. I didn't even pay attention to the fact that I drew that card. I was just talking about Neptune. So the Ace of Swords is about cutting through the fog. This morning when I woke up, it was really foggy, and I was like, oh, I got to get into that fog. I love fog. And I didn't make it. It kind of burned off by the time I thought about going outside. But that's kind of what Neptune can bring to a situation. And whatever's going on in your life, there's going to be this sense of, maybe it's even in a marriage or personal relationship, of like, I know what to do now, and I'm going to have a new start because I have a sense of clarity. My mind isn't foggy anymore. We have in the past position the Justice card. By the way, I just want to say that the Justice card can relate to Libra. Oh, it's a little blurry. It's not focusing. Okay. Libra is an air sign, and the swords are connected to air signs. Now I'm getting this Ace of Swords flanked. Now that's swords. But I'm getting it also next to the Star card, which is connected to Aquarius, the other air sign. So we're talking about Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, and that person can feature in your life. This is a general reading, so it doesn't have to be a love situation. It could be a child, it could be an employer, employee, friend. But in the past position with the Justice card, it's almost like for work situations, going through arbitration. I was going to say arbitration. Arbitration, and somebody who is like a sounding board, or who is able to see both sides of the issue and make their decision. And so you can move ahead, because you may have been given a pack of lies by your employer, by coworkers, and you're trying to get to the truth of something. And now you feel empowered. Now, it doesn't mean that you're even working for them anymore. You may have gotten fired unjustly, and you had to go through some kind of arbitration or whatever. That wouldn't be arbitration. That would just be either a lawsuit or something. The Justice card can indicate that a verdict has been rendered. And yet, there's another possibility here, is that there was a past case, like an inheritance issue, that you thought was done with, and something out of the blue comes along that it really gives you this sense of like, wow, there really is somebody out there looking out for me, or I really have hope now. Maybe you were disappointed by some kind of an inheritance matter, or the equivalent, where you were dealing with other people's money and you felt like you got screwed over. The Star card can also refer to feeling connected to people who have passed that you loved, like relatives or anyone who meant a lot to you, who is not in the physical anymore, and you were wondering if you were still connected to them, if they were still like aware of your life, but also if they're okay in some cases. This is the higher message, the Knight of Pentacles. This connects to Taurus. This person could be a Taurus. They could have been somebody who was just very much nose to the grindstone type of worker. And also as the higher message, this may be telling you that you have somebody like this in your life, and perhaps you have taken them for granted, or if it's a potential romantic partner, you may think that they're too predictable, they're too boring, and you prefer somebody who has a little bit more excitement going on with them. But if you're having a relationship right now that is very tumultuous, then perhaps this type of a person is more stabilizing. But this could certainly be a facet of you, and as a spiritual message is saying, the way out of or the way to it's not really out of anything, because you have some wonderful cards. The way to maintain all of this good stuff that's happening to you is work. That work will save you for some reason, and possibly because you're on a good roll. You don't want to slow down and kind of lose the momentum. What crosses you is that, what I was saying before, that sense that there's still things that you're not aware of, and you can't put your finger on it. Also, not getting in touch with your spiritual side. If you're, it's funny, I got that as a spiritual message, the Knight of Pentacles, because it really is a very practical card. It really, you don't associate it with spiritual things. And now I'm getting this other card that's saying you're not being spiritual enough. So with the Knight of Pentacles, part of that is, I think, for somebody like Sagittarius, because in the major arcana, the card for Sagittarius is the Temperance card, and it shows an angel, and she has 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on land. So it's to balance the spiritual and the physical. The Knight of Pentacles as a spiritual card is saying that perhaps some of you are a little bit too dismissive of the physical dimension, and are kind of up in the ether, but you're not grounded. So maybe this is to say you need to become more grounded, and this is like you need to become more spiritual. And obviously that's going to differ for the people watching this. Some people may not feel that they have that need, but if in case that's the truth, maybe some of you are going to one extreme or the other. That's the best way of putting it. Either you're too immersed in the physical or too immersed in the spiritual. Okay. What's coming in is the Page of Wands, and this is a card of messages, being excited about something, maybe a new offer, a new idea even. And you could have this for yourself, or you could be talking it over with somebody else who wants to go in on something with you. But whatever is going on, I feel like there's a lot of positive vibes when it comes to starting a venture and being creative, being hopeful, enthusiastic about life. And so you may forget any of these other things. These things may be just like in relationship, like family issues or something. Life is a crazy quilt of conflicting emotions, isn't it? You may be doing really well with your career, and then your private life is crap, and you can be happy some of the time and feel like you're really successful, and then you feel like, what's going on? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Going towards that which is really making you feel successful in life is the best policy, because you're doing something constructive. If you're having something that you'd like to iron out, that's fine. There's probably never going to be a time in our lives where everything in our life is completely perfect, where we don't have any room for improvement or conflicts. And being okay with that is the most important thing. When people try to resist that and say there's something wrong with themselves because they have a problem, well, I don't think that's realistic. I think that that's the whole purpose of being here. That's why this is not, Shangri-La or something. It's not this perfect environment, because it's showing contrast. It's showing the areas that differ from where we're at, so that we can have that sense of expansion. The outcome is the Five of Cups. This is, I connected to this card in the sense that there is this, there's a mourning period. I just thought of something, I thought of something during this reading that was personal to me. And what I think that this could mean is that sometimes when people die, you're angry at them. And it could be somebody who, is a parent. And they may not have been a horrible parent, but there was something that happened that left things on a bad note. And you may have felt like a certain confusion about that. And it doesn't have to be a parent. It can be a friendship, okay, whatever. Even a lover, a husband or wife, Even on that level, you may love your spouse, but there was something. And maybe when they passed, you didn't really grieve. And part of the reason why was because you had already been dealing with something with them that caused you to kind of have a hardened heart. And something may happen with that star card that shows you, and that this person is pulling the strings for you now. And it's like what's interesting is this card is right underneath that card of hope restored, the star card. So I don't see, I could have left it like that, because now that I really analyze it, I think that it's not what it typically means. The typical meaning of the Five of Cups is somebody mourning a loss. But in this context, I think it's a positive ending because it's a catharsis. Perhaps you had some hard feelings about what somebody did who has passed, and now you feel like they're helping you, and so you forgive them. I had just was watching a what do you call it, another reader last night who was saying about the Five of Cups, like somebody with a drinking problem. So that may be true for some of you, whether it's yourself and you need to do something about this, or if it's somebody else in your life. And what that would be saying is, especially under that star card, is that they, and this may be somebody who has passed, they really didn't mean what they did. They had a sickness, and it caused them to act in ways that they would not have done otherwise. It's kind of like temporary insanity. So that may help you to grieve too. And grieving is not a bad thing unless you're feeling sorry for yourself and you're using that as an excuse not to move on with your life. But grieving is a very necessary process. Now, you don't have to be sad when somebody passes or you're abnormal. You can feel happy for them. And that will tend to cut a lot of that grief, because a lot of grief is for ourselves. And it's kind of selfish if you think about it. But when you really love somebody, you miss their presence, that's all. However, there may be kind of like you may have had mixed emotions when they passed, and now you feel the sense of being able to move on with a clear mind, So it might have had something to do with somebody's passing. I did pick an additional card. I probably didn't have to do it. The Page of Swords. This is the second page that I've gotten. So messages after August and September with the Mercury retrograde from hell in my case. Well, I mean, not really, but I mean, I had to spend money on equipment. Even before it started, I was starting to get problems. But all these, the eclipses, all that stuff, maybe now you're getting clearer messages, clear communication channels, but it can be about you deciding that you're going to get to the bottom of something because you realize that maybe somebody else has been, manipulating stuff from behind the scenes, and that has poisoned the well with you and this other person, if there was some kind of a falling out with somebody who has passed. But definitely for work situations, grieving any kind of a loss, even if you get a golden parachute, maybe you were forced to retire early and it was actually illegal, any kind of a situation where you feel that you were not given the full understanding of what was happening, you may go, and even if you get a judgment, you may still be like, I think there's still like stuff out there that needs to be dealt with here. The Justice card, though, doesn't mean that the verdict has been rendered. It may just mean that you have enacted that legal representation. So perhaps the Page of Swords is you doing your own legwork and finding out something. So, okay, well, that's very interesting, and it seems to be like kind of a cliffhanger, right? But I think the important cards are on the top. Justice, getting what you deserve. Getting fairness, finally, moving ahead with a clear head, Ace of Swords, and feeling a sense of healing, a sense of faith again, when you may have temporarily lost it. Okay, so let me get the lake and the stillness. The tempo of life these days has sped up considerably. And there seems to be no end to this quickening pace. Immersed as we are in the technological whirlpool, there seems to be no escape. However, there is no need to be a prisoner to the hurry-up syndrome, nor is there a need to feel trapped by the awareness of the collective intensities that massive numbers of humans are experiencing these days. No matter if the noise is from your environment or your seemingly non-stop thinking, it is critical for you to seek stillness. Find it in your world, whether it is a special place in your home or a special place in nature that is far from human-made noise. Of particular importance is finding it within yourself, which can be made easier by being in a quiet place in a natural setting. Doing so not only relaxes your mind, but also heightens your awareness and senses. I laughed because yesterday when I was going out, I was just noticing all this noise around me. And, they're building things. There's jackhammers. There's, but there's leaf blowers. There's those riding lawnmowers all over the place. And I was just like, oh my God. And then sometimes I try to go to the park and they're doing the leaf blowers there. Can you imagine blowing leaves in a park? I mean, that has got to be, I can't even imagine that. So I was laughing because I was like saying good luck with that, where sometimes we're trying to seek it and we can't find it. So what I would say, if you feel me on that and you've had similar experiences, it may be time for you to live in a more rural environment, because I live in a suburban environment, so it's kind of like flirting with urban, but not quite. But the noise can be, very problematic as well. And I'm talking about environmental noise. So it may be that you are becoming more refined and it's becoming more intolerable, the noise. And I feel that that must be true for me, because I keep saying, why didn't this bother me before? I do think it's increased in the amount, but I also think that when you go into a higher frequency, you just crave silence. You don't want that noise. You don't want to, chit-chat all the time. So, and all of that. So that's what I plan to do, and you may join me in that sentiment. So anyway, Sagittarius, I hope you enjoyed this, and if you'd like a private reading, most of my readings employ your natal chart, and that is your cosmic blueprint for this lifetime, and it's yours alone. So it's very specific to you. I feel it offers much more pinpointing of certain patterns and things, for self-growth, self-actualization. Please click on the link below. Otherwise, have an awesome October. Bye.